Hey everyone! After finishing Mon-YU, let's give it a review. For that, I'll be reviewing its story, gameplay, graphics and music. Be sure to check timestamps in case there's something specific you wanna see. So let's begin. This game begins narrating that in Tirna Balk, where the fairies live, there is a tower shaped after a dragon named Idran, which had 7 treasures that could bring peace. However, they were stolen by 7 living kings, and using their power they transformed the tower in a dungeon. And that is how heroes from other worlds were brought into this land to get these treasures back. And with that and some extra worlds were thrown into the fray, as this fairy world is going to be destroyed if these treasures are not returned to Eternia, the queen of fairies. In all honesty, this game showed a really light-hearted story, and it kept pretty much in the same tone until we are almost ready to get the final treasure back. After that point we get to know that there are hidden truths about these 7 devil kings and treasures. It is fair to say that if you want to fully understand this story you need to play Entaku no Seito, or the Students of the Round, or newly known as Saviors of Sapphire Wings. As they say, important names from, let's say, primordial gods that play important roles in many experience stories. I bring this point for this game because while other entries are connected, most of the time they don't say names in an explicit way. But do you really need to play that game? Not really. In the last dungeon where you need to finish some puzzles, you'll get, let's say, a super summary of some of those stories. And the end of the journey was something that I was expecting out of the main idea of this game. And also it was quite predictable after a particular scene. But I'll say that it was because I have played many games from this company. For me, a light-hearted story doesn't mean it is bad. However, if you're looking for something deep, this game is not going to be for you. This category is a 7.5. Its gameplay follows the classic mechanics from other crawlers. We are able to create our characters, so we choose from different sprites, assign a job out of 8 possible choices, and get ready to beat the heck out of everyone. Or so the theory says. I will say that do not get so fits to create a perfect team. The game isn't particularly hard compared to others from this company, and every unit has advantages and disadvantages, and it's going to be RNG dependent when we start to hunt equipment. Once we start exploring these dungeons in normal difficulty, we are not able to see the map, so we have to find a bug that gives us the chance to visualize it. The layouts of the dungeons are rather simple, so even if you are not able to see the map, it is easy to find your way. Most levels are pretty much just one floor, and that's it. And as we get near the last levels, we will get different layers. Maybe the hardest part is in a particular puzzle that took me quite some time to get the answer. But aside from that, they are rather simple. In my humble opinion, the game is easy. So reaching a point where you can say, damn, these dungeons feel like a never-ending hell, is kinda hard, unless you are not a fan of traditional RPGs. So right away I'll say that this is a perfect start for those who want to get into this particular genre. Now, what is the grinding loop that this game offers? It says in a number of times at the beginning that you are going to get wrecked, so you have to farm. And yeah, in good measure it is warning you about some enemies. So the farming session begins pretty much whenever you want, because every fight is going to give you a drop, meaning that the more you fight, you are going to get more experience, skill points, equipment, and whatever you're using, it's going to increase levels. And it's worth getting some decent equipment and level it up, because you are the one who has a capped level, but your equipment doesn't. Every piece of equipment shows its rank with a number, as well as if they are, let's say, special with stars. But don't worry so much about it, because there are some blue enemies that are the best ones to farm, and that is how you can increase levels quite fast. It is worth mentioning that the game has something like an evaluation criteria, which asks for a specific level, number of turns to beat the boss, and area mapped. It is worth getting S rank because that way every drop you get is going to increase 1 rank, and that of course is going to make things easier as you proceed. Once you reach like 3/4 of the game, you get access to more skills, having 2 systems to play, which is shown as Chaos or Law. That way you can create particular characters however you feel the team has to be rearranged. And something I like a lot is that they use a similar system as Undernauts, where you can set and erase skill points whenever you want, Also, increase and decrease levels, so you can re-select any attribute as you need. For me, its gameplay is a solid 8.5. As far as crawlers go, it is easy. Has lots of options for you to choose, and the level design is rather simple. What breaks a bit the deal for me is that it focuses a good chunk in farming, and as the game isn't that long, if you are an experienced player you might feel like you're grinding quite constantly to get newer equipment, and of course it is needed to level it up, otherwise you're pretty much dead. For the graphics, the reality of this game is that it is so freaking charming. I mean, just look at the characters. When I read that you were able to use the sprites from Demon Gaze, Undernauts and Saviors of Sapphire Wings, I thought I was going to have a freaking mature looking character in a funny world, but yet I was wrong. Once I saw what they did with my boys and girls, I was laughing because of how they look. And yeah, I can summarize the whole graphics section as charming. Something that got my attention is that they use the same engine from Undernauts to make this game, and it can be easily seen while looking at the map, fighting bosses, and some mechanics while advancing through the dungeon. Is that something bad, something good? For me it means nothing, to be honest, and it doesn't surprise me because Experience Inc. is not a AAA studio. What is worth mentioning is that the game has a lack of design. We are going to see the same environment and enemies are quite repetitive as we venture further. Here what I will recommend is try to avoid the classic scenes in RPGs and create a much more diverse world. And it is a bit sad because while other entries do not have perfectly crafted worlds, they have shown a much more diverse environment, and in some cases enemy design. For me it is a 6.5, there is plenty of room to improve here. And for the music, this one gives the same vibe as how it looks. Fortunately or unfortunately, because some tracks are also quite charming. Just hearing those air instruments along the reminiscent sounds from Nordic music, it makes a good ambience. The original soundtrack of the game is kinda good, but once again, we have a good room of improvement here, because for the dungeon tracks they use the same track and 85% of the journey, so it will have helped much more having different tracks as we dive into different places. Maybe this was done in such way because the level design isn't that long, so having to create a track for each place was going to be a chore. I get it, but at least every 2 levels change the tune to refresh a bit the experience. Other than that, what I love is that they are still using some of the classic songs from other games. And while they can feel a bit out of place, if you know the context for whenever they are used in this series, they excite you a bit. Or at least they make those fights into something better. I have no issues if they recycle things, but for the newer tracks, they definitely needed much more love. It is a 7.5. Mon-YU final score is a 7.5. I'll say it once again. It is a good starting point for those who want to jump into dungeon crawlers, as it isn't that long, and compared to many others, it is quite easy. It is not a bad game, but the level design and its repetitive music didn't help that much. Other than that, it is fair to mention that its gameplay is solid. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.